It's recording, so welcome Fiona from the Young Mums Support Network. I will hand over to you to do an intro.
Hi, thank you, Katie. Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining. I'm Fiona Small. I'm the founder of the Young Mums Support Network, which is a community interest company. I set it up 8 years ago, shortly after having my second child, who's a boy, who just celebrated his 9th birthday last week, Tuesday. I had my son 2011, shortly before the London riots, and that I always tell this story just because this is kind of what enabled me to start up the community interest company that I'm the founder of. So 2011, just had my second baby, was about 4 weeks old, similar to who's the young lady, is it Kim, that has got a 6-day-old baby, but very young baby, nursing mother, and just was watching the television thinking, something's not right here. And I'm a mother of 2. I've just had this baby boy, and I was watching the news, and outside what I could see was my area where I live, burning buildings, riot police, everybody. It was such a chaotic time. My hormones at the time was probably running wild, and I just thought, what is going on? And for me, that was like my light bulb moment. That was kind of my call to action, was really around birthing this organisation. So fast forward, set up a support network for young mums, and if I'm to be honest, it wasn't something that I had envisioned that was going to take me into a whole different career down the line. So my eldest is actually going to be 16 this year, and I had her on my own. And being a first-time mother and having your first child on your own, not as I would have ultimately liked it to have been, but you know, that's kind of how the story went without going into the details. The person I had her for decided he didn't want to be part of the pregnancy. He didn't want to be involved. I had 2 options, and my option was to keep my child. And I'm really grateful that I did, because she is an amazing child. She'll be 16. I can't believe I'm saying I'm going to have a 16-year-old. But it taught me resilience. It took life experiences, as we know, especially motherhood, teaches us a lot about ourselves we probably didn't even know. And I can honestly say that me having my first child on my own really, I suppose, equipped me for my second child. However, I didn't expect that we would have had an uprising in the UK. So that was my inspiration, compelled with my personal experiences. So why is it important for a support network, especially for young mums? I know that motherhood, and I'm sure everybody could echo this, is a very isolating place. And sometimes, and I don't like to use the term single mum, I will use the term solo mum, because I think single mum has a very negative association to it. It's a label that society gives, and it's a not very nice one. So when you are a solo mum, I feel that the pressure and the expectations are a lot more higher, and you can easily find yourself comparing to others, especially if your network or your circle are all 2-parent, either married couples or couples together parenting, and you're the one. And oftentimes I found myself being that one who was the only single mum in my circle. There was times, it's funny, when I was thinking about talking today, I was actually thinking about when I'd go to parents' evening and look around, and it would just be me and my daughter, and everybody else was 2-parent families. And I just wanted like the world to just open up, because I felt like, gosh, look, everybody's got mums and dads and children. It's just me and her sitting there talking to the teacher. And I'd sometimes want to just hurry up and just leave, so just hurry up and go, but then I had to just say, actually, you know, Fiona, it is what it is. And it's not something that I wanted to be a victim. I know I've had my own pity parties. I've nurtured we all have to have our pity parties at times, and I think we're entitled to, but you do get fed up with your pity party. So I got a bit fed up with mine. So like, all right, Fiona, put it down now, and nurse your own wisdom. Now I've had to go through my own journey of acceptance, not blaming myself, because mum guilt, I'm sure everybody can associate with mum guilt. Mum guilt is something that comes in different shapes or forms. So whether it be that you forgot that it was own clothes day and you sent your child to school in school uniform, versus you're the only single mum in your crew, but mum guilt comes in different shapes and forms, and I think I've had my fair share of it. And when I decided to embark on this journey, shortly after having my second child, as I said, in 2011, I became quite active in my community. I wanted answers. I wanted to, discover actually who is responsible for what took place. And what it boiled down to for me was, well, somebody's raising these children, and our then Prime Minister was blaming, single parents. And I thought, how dare he? And I wanted to really challenge that narrative, that negative stereotype associated with being a single stroke solo mum. And I embarked on a journey. So I attended, there's a organisation, a charity in fact, called School for Social Entrepreneurs that support like charities, non-for-profit organisations in starting. And I embarked on that journey. When I went on that programme as a startup, it opened my eyes to social entrepreneurship. And that is where this organisation, Young Mums Support Network, was birthed. So to date, we provide support for mums who have come from a range of different backgrounds and have different complexities, predominantly young mums. And the reason why I focused on young mums, because at the time when I had my son, we had the highest proportion of teenage pregnancies across Europe. And I read a few reports, I sat on a few steering groups and committees, and just became quite active within the space and wanted to really get an understanding of what the needs were for young mums. So I used to run a group at a children's centre, Young Mums Group, which was just young mums only. And what was amazing about that group was young mums are usually titled as hard to reach, and we were able to engage with what you would call a hard to reach group because they were coming to the sessions. But I suppose because my personal story was able to relate to some of their experiences, and I came from a very non-judgmental space because when you've had your own kind of experiences, who am I to judge anybody else's? So just was able to meet the mums where they're at, and discovered that because we know that our children don't come with a manual or a script or instructions, a lot of us learn on the go, or we have somebody alongside us to encourage and support. And I believe that when you do have a supportive network around you, even if it's just a cheerleader to say, go on, Katie, you're doing an amazing job, you can do it. She didn't sleep well last night, but tonight is another night, let's go in again. Just being able to just encourage you to know that you are, especially in the newborn stages, because I remember the zombie stage. Who remembers that zombie stage where you're like, am I all right? Is this normal? You get past it and be like, oh, I feel fresh. I've got my makeup on today. Do you know what I mean? I was able to brush my teeth before 1 p.m. The little things that you can look and think, wow, motherhood has its ups and downs and swings around. But collectively, when we're able to share experiences, and what the support network did when we first began, we were able to bring in mums together with similar lived experiences, but the peer support that was developed, and this was 8 years ago. I mean, these children now, some of the mums have gone to uni, these children are now in school, some of them have had more children, and I see them as like the YMSN babies, and wanted to understand more about what the needs were. And when I look at my own story, so I call it pain to purpose, because prior to this, I wouldn't say that this was something that I envisioned myself embarking on as a career, because I was in the corporate sector for a short period of time, and then obviously with the decline of Lehman Brothers and things just kind of going topsy-turvy up there, I really felt like I just need something different. So I was on an exploring stage in my life, and I hit some landmarks and thought, okay, let me try this. And now that I can say that this organisation has, developed and shaped itself, it's enabled me to upskill myself and learn a lot more about not only what I've been through, I've able to, I suppose, receive my own healing through the support that has been provided with others, because sometimes you can feel so isolated in what you've got going on personally, and it's only until you hear somebody else say, oh, that happened to me, or I'm going through that, or thank you for sharing, because I never would have shared that with anybody else. Or, you know, I really admire your courage to, you know, share with others your experience. But it had taken me a long time. There was a time, and I was sharing with Katie last week when we spoke, and there was a time when I would never tell anybody my story. I used to think I'm the only one in the world with this story. Nobody else has had this done to them. I'm the only one. And used to think, why me? So I used to walk around with this, you know, burden on my shoulder that I was the only person. It's only until I actually started to, you know, accept and release myself from the mum guilt and embark on this journey, it has actually enabled me to really share and help others. So yeah, I am a solo mum still, so the relationship with my son's dad and I didn't work out, and it's not something that I dwell on. However, I know that co-parenting, for those that are not in relationships with the father of their children or child, it's not an easy thing to do, especially if communication is not always great. So some of the things that we put together around communication and co-parenting strategies, blended families dynamics, and all the things that I suppose is non-controversial really. It's not something that is ultimately spoken about, because usually we want the setup, and the setup is mummy, daddy, children and family, but not everybody has that setup. So yeah, we've my team and I, so I have a team around me who are absolutely amazing. I believe 2 of them are on. I think Sarah might have joined us, and Georgia. They are absolutely phenomenal. And what we've decided to do during lockdown is look at what we can provide practically for especially those that are parenting alone at home during lockdown, trying to homeschool and just stay sane and make sense of everything that's been happening over the last 3 months. So we've put together, I think this, Katie, might be a good introduction to the questionnaire, because we've been putting a survey together, just asking some questions about what the needs are and what the support is. I love what Mush has done with regards to the virtual support. So those that are, so the poll is in progress. Thank you, Katie. What usually happens here with the poll, Katie?
So yeah, just you should all see, if you tap on your phone, you should see a poll there. If you could just tap on any of those multiple choice stats, some are already, and that way, so 6 of you have done it. Still there, 7 of you. And are you able to see the results? Can you see them, Fiona?
Okay, go. Could you bring it up again? I think I saw it before. Do I press poll in? Okay, yeah. Let's see if I don't seem to see the results, but I can see the questions.
Okay, well, I can always tell you. So, I mean, so far, you know, a lot of people are after activities to do with their kids during COVID. 7% would like that. 20% said managing your child's behaviour is something that they're interested in hearing more about. Budgeting and money is a big hit. 36% saying budgeting and money is something that they want help with. Self-care and well-being, also very popular. 73% would like that would be something that you could help. 25% learning a new skill, and there is one domestic abuse, and cooking meals, finding a job. They've all got a couple of hits each.
Awesome. Oh, thank you. That's a good balance.
I'm going to end the poll unless anyone's midway through. I'm going to end that poll and you carry on.
Fantastic. Well, I think learning a new skill is really something, especially during lockdown. You will surprise yourself at what you have managed to learn. Oh, fantastic. I've got here now.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, cooking. Right. Yeah, so sorry, I've just closed it because it came up on my screen. Yeah, you'll be surprised what you discover and learn about yourself, even if it's just patience or tolerance or just being able to get some routine and structure. I'm not sure of those that have children of school age, but I've found personally for me what really helped in the beginning. I mean, I'm sure many of us Joe Wicks was the lifesaver like 3 weeks ago, doing the Joe Wicks workouts in the morning, and then it was like handwriting, and for me, for those who said around managing children's behaviour, my son last year was diagnosed with ADHD. So his behaviour prior to that had really deteriorated. This is probably for another session to talk about this whole journey about getting his EHCP plan, which is his educational healthcare plan, and the support that I've managed to receive from the local authority, also from the school as well, around managing behaviour. So I definitely can empathise with those who have children, especially children with additional needs, especially children with special needs, because he didn't fall under the at-risk bracket that some children did, that was still able to go to school. As you know, schools were open for vulnerable children. My son didn't fall into that category, but it has been certainly a challenge, one motivating him for him to, you know, continue with his work and get his work done, but equally trying to just cope and realize what his teachers had probably been telling me all of this time. So managing children's behaviour, something that we could certainly share with you in terms of the tools and resources that we've managed to implement, and incentives for them, and also just exercising patience. But for the well-being, I would say, of us as mothers, we need to treat that as a high priority, because we know when we are good, the household is good, the children are good, and everything just flows. And as easy as it might sound, we'll say like, well, how am I supposed to look after myself when my hands are full and I'm, you know, struggling to even just get dressed or just get out the door or get some fresh air? It's really important to look at kind of what does your day look like. What we've been introducing within, just even with us as a team, and in the beginning, was practical tips and strategies that can be implemented, not unrealistic, because some things are unrealistic. A lot of people think, well, when am I going to find the time to even start that? Because it's not realistic. And we've got mums who live in different circumstances. Not everybody lives in a place that has an outdoor space, or a garden, for example, or a communal area where you can get outside. There's some mums that we work with that are in temporary accommodation, so they might be in mother and baby units. We've even got mums who, you know, sadly are in refuges because of domestic violence. And as you know, they've had to put extreme restrictions on movement as well. We've also got mums who are in the process of trying to move home, but because of the lockdown, it has restricted them. You think about all of that coupled on, yes, now look after your well-being. It's like, hello, my well-being is just probably getting up in the morning and making sure that we're all fed and clothed, much less to try and, you know, I don't know, do some meditation or breathe. But in terms of looking out for you, accountability, having somebody who is like an accountability buddy really does help. And this is something that you can really practically do. Thank you, Sarah. Sarah in my team has just posted in their self-affirmations. We do that a lot. I'm sure you guys have heard about the Yes Mum cards, and I love those Yes Mum cards. If you haven't heard, I'll send the link as well, Kate. That's probably something I should have added to the resources. Yes Mum cards are stuff that, for those that do affirmations, and it could be simple things like, today is a new day and I am going to allow for the day to flow. Tomorrow is gone, today is a new day. Let's start again. Oftentimes we can dwell on, oh, that didn't work, or, you know, you're holding on to stuff. Sometimes it's about letting that go, that didn't work, and let's try something new. And even with behaviour, because children with I'll call it challenging behaviour, especially those that are going through maybe the tremendous twos. We don't call them terrible twos, it's all positive. The tremendous twos, we know that they come with their own personalities and their own way of trying to articulate and communicate. But sometimes that goes into the 3s, 4s, 5s, and if you're like me, the 8s and the 9s, because I'm still going through, when it comes to bedtime, the routine. I was speaking to Sarah, my colleague, yesterday, and we're both thinking, well, what happens at bedtime? Once upon a time where school was, right, we need to wind down because we've got school, we've got our routine. The routine, because I suppose we don't have such of a routine as such now, because we haven't got to get children to school for 8:45, it means that we have to make sure that we try to be consistent with our children, because they thrive on routine and they thrive on consistency, especially, and it's healthy for us as well, because if you're able to have your evening, and even if that means that they've gone to bed and then an hour later you go to bed, and that's just your time, whether it's your box set or just time to put some music on, or as I've just mentioned, have an affirmation, and that could be, what do you want tomorrow to look like, or what don't you want tomorrow to look like, in fact. And you can write these things down to yourself. These are things that I write notes to self quite a lot, and it helps me to get whatever's going on up here out, because we're being stimulated by so much different things at the moment. We've got social media, we've got the news, which I'm sure many of us would have to switch that right off before a while, because so much has been happening recently. And if we're not careful, these are the things that, when you might be feeling extra down or wondering, why do I feel this way? It could be those things are triggers as well. So looking after your self-care, where you're just taking responsibility, and responsibility could just be, I'm going to turn that television off, or I might not answer that call just yet, because sometimes we feel that we have to respond every time to these pings that go off. Putting them on silent is actually not a bad thing. So those are the things, when I consider well-being, I think about the stuff that is within my control, and what's within my control is how I respond to things, and maybe when I respond. So being, yes, gratitude as well. Yes, Sarah, you're on a roll. Daily gratitude. Thank you for the prompts, Sarah. Gratitude is something I've even started to introduce to my little one, when calling him a little one, my 9-year-old, before he goes to bed now, because I've got to help him with his self-regulation, as said, because of his behavioural challenges. And those that have children with behavioural challenges, you'll find that it is around regulation, or looking at how to help them to process whatever their emotions are that they've got going on. In his school, they use a program called Zones of Regulation, and I've been introducing that into our homes as well, in our home as well. But we do at night time, when it's time to wind down, I ask him questions. I've actually got him a little journal as well. It's just a little feelings journal, just so he can actually communicate with me his feelings, because there's times when, I suppose, even for us as adults, it's not always easy to communicate, especially even if you've got a partner, especially at the newborn stages. I remember when my son's dad and I were together, and I remember just a week or so in, and I just started to cry, and he said, "What's the matter?" And I said, "I just want to go for a walk." And he said, "Well, go then." And then I don't know why I couldn't just say I wanted to go, but it just felt, I felt overwhelmed, and I was just like, I just need a walk. And then he looked at me like, really, Fiona? But for me, it was just, I couldn't communicate that. And that taught me, I suppose, in that instant, that all I needed to say was, I'm not really feeling great. I don't know if I was able to say it at the time. Maybe it was hormonal. And as I said, my son was born at a time when so much was going on. But I was able to master that. Actually, all I needed to say to him at that time was, could I have some space, or could I just go for a walk and you watch the baby for a minute? And I don't know everybody's circumstances on here, and communication is something that we learn to master as we go through in life. I think what this organisation has taught me is how to communicate, how to share, and I know what to share. Sometimes we can go into overshare, but I know what to say and how to say it, in terms of how to communicate and articulate myself. So if you are feeling a bit like, oh, I don't know what's troubling me, and just writing things down, doodling is quite a good one as well, and those self-affirmations, and finding things to be grateful for. And it could be simple things that, I'm just grateful for the roof over my head. I'm grateful that, we've got food in the cupboards, and that we're fit and healthy, or, the baby and I are fine. Especially for those who have had children during this period, I'm sure you can definitely be saying, wow, what a time to be going and having a child. And you've definitely probably have a sense of gratitude to think, you know what, we made it through this period. So gratitude is definitely something that to be exercised and introduced, especially for your wellness. Having people around you in your network who are non-judgmental and people that you can share, offload, and just allow for them to know that actually I might not be feeling great today. So if I'm not myself, it's nothing personally to do with you, but I just want to let you know this is where I'm at, so just give me some time. And that's where the support comes in, because people have an understanding. So I'm gonna allow for, if anybody has any questions now. It's 11:30, as you can tell, I'm a good talker and I can go on and on and on if you allow me to, but I'd love to open the floor. Katie, I think this is a golden time to probably hear from those that are on, and welcome everybody. I'm Fiona Small from Young Mums Support Network who have joined in. Thank you for listening to me. Katie, how does this section now work?
I think, so given what the poll said, I mean, where would you point people to if they're looking for, certainly, I mean, is this activities during lockdown, things like that? Is that something that you've been compiling a list of?
Yeah.
Equally, you know, financial support or things that are available for young mums that perhaps, you know, they need to know about. Could you sort of describe some of those?
Yeah, sure. We've got like a range of videos around activities to do at home and to make it fun. So we've also got them on our Instagram page and on our YouTube as well, just around some of the home learning, because I feel that for those who've got children in school, I'm not sure what programs you're using, but my son's school uses Google Classroom and my daughter uses Microsoft Teams. What I have been doing with my son is taking the learning outside and doing some different activities and making it really creative and fun. Sarah from our team, who is also on, she's a creative genius, and I think we've surprised ourselves in the way that we have learned some stuff around just things in the home, junk modeling, the things that we would probably never have done because you want either the place to stay tidy, or it's like, not today, there's no time, we're going somewhere. We have a bit more time on our hands now to just give the children a different experience, because I think for those who have children in school who are missing their friends, who are probably not as engaged with them as they once were. I know that we've probably never used Zoom as much as we have done now. I mean, I've got, my grandma lives in America. She says, everybody is Zooming, Zoom, 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 Zoom. She's so funny with her Jamaican accent. And I was like, when I tried to get my children to engage with their friends, it is on this platform. They had a meetup with their friends and their team recently, and it was interesting to hear about what the children had been doing. A lot of them have been obviously communicating via their consoles and games, and we've been told, I think this is probably the first time that we've been told this, not to worry too much about screen time. I mean, when would you ever have heard, don't worry about screen time? Whereas what we have been told in the past is screen time, monitor screen time, not too much. Now it's like, knock them out with the screen, you know, let them have it. But what we have been doing is using activities that they can do at home, arts and crafts, things that they can make, different games that they can actually do together as well. And the children have found it really good. And I know for like the mums with like babies, you're probably thinking, well, what can I do with the baby at this stage? I think it would be more so around now that obviously government has lifted the restrictions and you're able to meet, you've got these now new bubbles that you can form, finding out if you can actually connect with your body. And I'm sure you, Mush, you've also probably got that. I keep calling you Mush, it's Mush, sorry. It's the Jamaican in me. Mush. We have also probably connected mums with different activities, but we cater for probably more the preschoolers that want to stay occupied and probably get them off of the screen for a while and do some more interaction with them. Sarah, I don't know if you want to add anything on in terms of activities. and pointing. Are we able to unmute Sarah, Katie?
Oh, yeah, I've done it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I just popped a little message in the chat. Sorry if I repeat what Fiona's been saying, but we've got a few little activities on video on our Facebook page, and also through a children's centre that we've been working with, and they've got loads of different activities, some creative and some yoga activities, reading activities. And being a children's centre, it's all aimed at parents who have got kids under 5. So I'll pop the link to that children's centre as well, and all their video material in the chat.
Thank you, that's great. If you guys join this Fiona's Young Mums chat, I've just shared a load of resources. This one particularly, this screenshot we've got around the Family Fund, Disability Living Allowance Helpline, Turn to Us, which is a discretionary housing payment, Income Max. So all of these things are relating to money and finances, which is such a huge pressure, isn't it? Whether you're young, frankly, whether you're anybody at the moment. But I imagine, particularly if you're a solo mum and haven't quite got on the career path. I mean, you must have to do a lot of coaching, Fiona, to young mums who perhaps have wound up with a baby unplanned and are now trying to navigate the new life ahead of them, which feels like, you know, well, I've got to be a mum, I can't afford to go back to work, what is my work? Can I still have work? What, you know, in training and jobs and things like that, which is something which people were interested in hearing about. You know, how would they approach this, and what are the resources out there for them?
Yeah, so it's interesting. One of the mums that I did a coaching session with last week, she's also a young mum who she didn't actually do her GCSEs. Her baby's just turned 1, and she was like, I'm going to go back and do my GCSEs. She goes, because if I'm going to be encouraging him to go and do his GCSEs, I can't let him turn around and say to me, well, you haven't got any GCSEs. So, and she's 24, and she said, you know what, I'm going to go back and study. So I want to encourage for those who, you know, and I'm not saying that people have to go back and do GCSEs, but never feel any way to kind of go back and upskill yourself or relearn or anything that you feel, oh, I should have maybe taken this pathway, but I didn't. There are different ways now to enter into training where you can just get yourself on that pathway. And as it stands now, I think where we are mainly using the online tools and resources, it's really good to look at what skills, especially because I think some might be developing a new career for yourself as it stands now. I'm grateful for the opportunity to still have work, I should say, and the team and I are very much in demand now, just because of the impact of how COVID is having on mums that we support through Young Mums Support Network. But this is a golden opportunity for many to sit down and map out actually where are the gaps that I may have missed, and then just kind of put together a semi-plan for yourself. So that could even be when you're looking for careers advice. What I often say to people is, well, because sometimes we don't know what we're good at, and it's so good to have somebody say to have a conversation with someone and say, you know, what have you noticed about me that you think I'm good at? What skills do you think I have, and what area would you say would be good for me to embark on? Because even with my team, even Sarah will say, I mean, Sarah's doing lives and video tutorials with her children, who Sarah once upon a time used to be very shy, and when I'm seeing Sarah producing, it's so confident and very much out of her comfort zone, I'm like, Sarah, you are amazing. And it's all, sometimes it's about having the right push or the right cheerleader behind you to say, come on, you can do it. I've had an amazing support around me from individuals who they've believed in me when I've not even believed in myself, and they'd be like, Fiona, I know you can do this, you've got this. I'm like, me? Really? And then I look at myself now and think, gosh, you know, I did it. And I'm somebody who has embarked on a range of different things because of my passion for, you know, having a support network for mums and trying to reduce isolation and well-being. I've had my own challenges personally in the past around when I wasn't in such a good state of mind, and I was able to come through it. And I think it's so important when you use your personal experiences to, when I use the term pain to purpose, oftentimes whatever has been, you know, that thing in your life where you thought, I'd never get through this, and when you've come through the other side, you'll be surprised that that very thing is what can actually direct you to your career or the path where you found your purpose. Everybody, I believe, in life will have a purpose or a mission, but some of us discover it earlier, some of us discover it later, but you will find it if you are really determined to say, you know what, you can get uncomfortable with just being in the same situation, but without it overwhelming you, sit down and draw out, actually, these are the things that I used to be interested in, or these are the things that people often say about me. They say, oh, why don't you start a career in journalism? Or what? Nowadays, we've got the internet at our fingertips. We can reach anybody. And even when you think about Katie, you and I's connection has been through somebody else. And the way that you can just, you know, communicate with others now, never feel that anything is out of your reach. If I'm to be honest, you've just got to, what's the saying? Reach for the stars, and if you land on the clouds or something, you may land on the clouds. But just really aim for whatever it is, and even if you don't know what that is right now, because we could be in a space where it's like, now I'm just comfortable with me and baby. Now's not the time for me to focus on career. I want to just be a mum. But after that, it's like, okay, then what would I like to do? And using your motherhood experiences to either share with others or look at kind of where that takes you is what I would say. Because my pathway has been through the support that I've received and the belief that others has had in me, that's propelled me to where I am today, and still able to, you know, doors be opened for me. So I feel very grateful, and I love encouraging, especially others who might think, oh, what am I going to do with my life? I was in that space. I remember that really clearly, thinking nothing's ever going to work, you know, and I look back now and think, gosh, I'm a totally different person.
Well, look, I think so much of that, as you said, comes from other people's input and positivity. And I think I love the idea of asking someone close to you, you know, what am I good at? I think that's a really good first step. To be honest, asking other people about anything is a great way to, you know, feel normal and we've, you know, feeling like others are in the same boat makes you feel much better. Dee's saying though, you know, I want to reach out to other mums, but I don't want to burden them with my whinge. You know, it's that. What do you have any particular connections through your network that matches young mums to young mums? Because part of me wonders whether you know, they have such a specific set of needs that they feel like they want to talk to someone else with that specific set of needs.
Yeah, I would say, you know, never ever feel that you're burdening anyone with your whinge. You'll be surprised. Whinges are actually quite healthy. You'll be surprised that everybody needs to have their, like I call it pity party, but I say, even if you want to call it a whinge party, where you say, right, for the first, you know, 10 minutes, let's all have a little whinge, because we all have one, whether it's, you know, I have to constantly tell my son, pick up your trousers, boxer shorts and your trousers off the bathroom floor, or why is it me that has to be telling everybody to do? We all have a whinge, right? And nobody is whinge proof. I like that one. When everybody will have something where they think, oh, but you might be surprised if we can sometimes think nobody wants to hear my woes. And it's like when Sarah and I were sharing yesterday, and Sarah said, oh, bedtime has just become, and then she went, oh, but you probably don't want to hear about this. And I went, well, yes, I do, because then I started to offload mine. I was like, well, this is what's going on for me. And I could just see that, and this was on our Google Hangouts team meeting, we all just had a sense of, ooh, you know, I'm not the only one. And having those, even if we want to call them whinge parties, Katie, I think that's a good little term. It means that you've just created that space to say, let's all have a little whinge. And then after that, we're like, you will find your solutions through that. So we don't have anything per se to say that we match mums with, but there is definitely scope and room for that, because in a time that we're living in now, with so many different things happening in the world, I think a whinge is literally, I think that's actually a polite term, you know, because I think it's much needed.
No, absolutely right. And I was saying to you, wasn't I, Fiona, that what we found with, you know, people that use Mush, you know, it's just all they're searching for, all they're craving is being told that what they're doing is totally normal. What they're going through is normal. And other people are going through the same thing. I mean, that in itself makes such a huge difference to how you feel you're performing, is the wrong word, but, you know, as a mum. And so absolutely do not feel embarrassed about whinging. And that could lead to a more positive conversation once you've got the whinge out the way too. So if anyone has any specific questions, Fiona is the absolute authority on, you know, what entitlements and things that young mums perhaps concerns or you know, please do ask away in the chat. I'm just looking back to the description of our session for today, Fiona, and we've talked about, so we're basically all of the online and offline resources I'm going to share into Fiona's Young Mums chat on the app. We've covered the, you know, the financial support that's on there. Also, the links are also included around accessing help with housing, training, childcare. Yeah, wonderful. So that sort of thing you're going to find on there. Maybe can we touch on, you know, future relationships or bringing in new partners to your life, to your life with a small child?
Yes, I would say with that, so the new term blended families, as many probably know, it means that, you know, the nuclear family is not the situation anymore. We have different kind of setups of families, and when relationships don't quite go the way that we want them to go, what I would say is really important for everybody that is probably preparing or wanting to go into or enter into a new relationship is to ensure that you are personally ready and that you have healed from past hurts. And when I say healed from past hurts, I mean all of us have our own element of baggage and stuff that we can easily bring into our other relationships, and sometimes we can compare things that didn't go wrong with new partners. And what you want to do, especially because when children are in the equation, sometimes what children are looking for ultimately is that setup or that replacement. And remember when I was in a relationship and my son, he adapted the term stepdad, and I didn't even know that my son knew the term stepdad. So he said, "Oh, are you my stepdad then?" And I was like, "Oh my goodness, stepdad, I didn't even know you knew this term." And I was like, but then I had to have a conversation with him. But also, when you are going to embark into a new relationship, what you want to establish first is, you know, how serious this relationship is, and whether it is for you to introduce this person, this individual, into your children from the offset. And it depends on definitely your support network that you have, definitely kind of if you're able to, because I suppose lockdown is very different. Maybe a lot of things now are probably happening on the dating apps and stuff. So I don't think people are meeting up as such. But if you are somebody who is, I don't know, speaking to somebody and wanting to know actually where is this going, and if it's something that you want as a long-term relationship where you're going to settle down and you see that there is a future in this, then you can begin to have the conversations and find out, you know, how do you feel about me having a child or children, and what would you, managing expectations around what you think that person's responsibility would be with you and also your children. Because what you don't want to do is introduce somebody too soon and they feel that they have a role and a responsibility to your child or children before it's time, because what that can breed is resentment. It can make your children think, well, you know, who is this person that mum's met and has come into my home and is now thinking that they can dictate how things go. You've got to remember that whoever you bring around your children or your child, you're bringing them into their space. And communication, especially if you've got children of communication age, I suppose with babies it's very, very different. But when you've got a child who can communicate, you can really be able to have a conversation. How do you feel about mummy seeing this person, and how does it make you feel, and what would you like? I mean, I've actually had conversations with my children around, you know, how often would you like this person to be come into our home, and how does it make you feel when they're around? Just because I have to respect their space, I have to think that they were here first before this individual, and it is even for me personally, it's my desire to be in a relationship. I still believe in the fairy tale, ladies. I still believe in the fairy tale. I haven't given up on the fairy tale, and I'm going to hold on to that. Things haven't worked out the way that ultimately I would like to, but I haven't lost hope. I do believe that Prince Charming is out there, so I'm going to hold on to that. But until, you know, that time comes, I'm not going to make constant mistakes, because what can then happen is the impact of that on the children, and our first priority as mothers is those children, and to ensure that we don't allow for them to be confused about the world. They can, you know, their environments are really key, and what they're exposed to will become their norm. So if people come and they go, and they come and they go, what can tend to happen for children is that can breed insecurity, that can breed anxiety, that can allow for them to think, well, nobody stays around, and then you may have children that develop behaviour issues down the line. So it's really important to, one, be sure about what it is and what it is you want, and also the individual that you meet, what the kind of future plan is. And if it means that actually the children don't need to be part of this, because this is just for me to have, then you're entitled to that. But do protect your children, and still try and maintain that you do have a life, but you've just got to kind of work out those dynamics of how it all works, which can be quite complicated. I'll probably say that it's like just easy. It's actually not, but just kind of putting their needs first is what I would say. Communicate with them if they are of communication age, and also from a safeguarding perspective, can I just say this, that as solo mums, sometimes we can be quite vulnerable, especially if we've been rejected and abandoned and had to deal with, you know, past nonsense. It can mean that sometimes individuals can prey on those vulnerabilities, and they will want to come into your home, and they will want to manipulate and try and control. Please do just be on your guard with your children around who you expose them to, just to make sure that you are comfortable and enough to know that whoever you invite in your home, they're not going to violate you or your children. Be very much on your guard, and that's just a word of warning for mums who, you know, we all get into a vulnerable space at times, but never allow for that to be something where, as a result, it means you've invited the wrong person into your home and around your children.
Yeah, very wise words there. It goes for everybody, but yes, I think it comes down to sort of a self-esteem, or, you know, I can imagine there's a number of reasons why you just want help, or you want company, you want someone else to shoulder the load with, and you must remember to do all the sort of checks on them as you would for such an important role, which is that, someone that's going to be in your child's life. I completely agree. I always thought for young mums, there will be a huge sense of FOMO, right? I mean, it happens for mums of all ages. When you have a baby, you're left thinking, the rest of the world, all of my friends, colleagues, my old life is over. I am no longer doing what I used to do. Parts of that I love, but parts of that makes me feel really lonely and really left out. but I would imagine, you know, for me, a lot of my friends were also having children at the same time. So there was someone else to call on and say, you know, I've heard they're having a lovely time down the pub, but at least I know you're in with a baby as well. And that chat. But for young mums, I can imagine that being a really tough time. I often think that this whole coronavirus thing has been helpful for those mums, because there's a sense that no one else is having a good time. Everyone else is in their houses.
No doubt.
But this is over soon. But what was your experience of that, Fiona? Like, how did you get through that feeling of missed opportunities, perhaps, or the fear of missing out?
Missing out. I would say, for me, what was the first time when I had my daughter was 16 years ago. A friend of mine, we were pregnant at the same time, so our children are 4 weeks apart. It's so funny. My daughter's 18th of October, her son is 18th of November, and we just buddied up. Her son's dad at the time was being really nasty to her, and she was just always down. I'd speak to her, she'd always be crying. I was like, listen, there's a baby massage class down the road, we need to go, come on, just get. And she lived like far, not too close to me, but she'd drive down, and we really bonded. Really, we needed each other at the time, because I was on my own, she was going through what she was going through, but we at the time were the only ones out of the friendship group that had our baby. So we were like, well, we may as well team up, because everybody else is doing other bits and pieces. So I had my good friend Stephanie, and then when I had my son in 2011, my sister, who was at the time a teenage mum, she was pregnant, and I just needed to really support her. I made sure that she completed uni. I was like, well, I'm the one that's setting up this support network. If anything, this is my case. That she's actually head of history now. She got a degree. She did all the things that, you know, the status quo probably didn't say she would have achieved, and she's achieved what she's actually getting ready to do a master's now as well. So she is a brilliant case study. But what I did in terms of looking for others was not try to, I really became, I suppose, inspired by mums like me that, you know, society would have said, oh, typical single mum on her own, you know, nothing's gonna, but had turned their story around. So I found inspiration. What I was doing at the time was listening to podcasts and audios on YouTube, and inspired, because I've really been on a personal development journey, I suppose, for the past 15 years, but really started to understand it when I had my son, because I knew that there was something in me that needed to come out. So I didn't allow for what I knew that this best guy, by the way, guys, social media is a lie. So everybody living their oh so best life on social media. Nobody's telling their real woes. It's all staged. Sorry to disappoint, but it's not real. It will allow for you to have that fear of missing out, because you're thinking, gosh, well, this person is doing amazingly well, and look at their life, and look at their new home, and look at this. They've even just bought a new car. How have they managed to do that? You've got to kind of know what you need to filter, and even just having your own personal goals. Because if you feel that you're missing out on stuff, I believe in visualization. Those that have vision boards, I really believe that it's such a good way to begin the year. I think many of us need to adapt our vision boards for this year, because COVID just came and reshaped the whole thing. But do put whatever you want for your life. You can actually believe that you too are entitled to that. And you don't ever feel that anything anyone has is out of your reach. It's all about how you view yourself. And that's my words. I have a self-belief where sometimes I think, am I normal? You know, but I believe in myself.
Amen to that. And that's why it makes you such a inspiring advocate for this, for these women, for these young women entering motherhood. Well done, Fiona. Thank you very, very much. We've sort of naturally coming to an end right at the right time, which is brilliant. Thank you again for that session. Anything else you'd like to say, Fiona, towards the end? I think just a final plug, I think, of finding you online. Sarah's very kindly put it up on the chat, but for those of the people watching this back on recording, how would they find out more information or resources from you?
So they can go to our website as well, which is www.ymsn.co.uk, and that's Young Mums Support Network, all abbreviated. Our Instagram is at Young Mums Support Network. My personal Instagram is at Fiona Smalls with an S at the end. And we're on Twitter as well at young_mothers. And Facebook, we've got a Facebook page called Help Is At Hand as well. And we go live on Friday on our Instagram page at 11:30. Yeah, 11:30 on a Friday. We've been speaking about a range of different things, supporting mums that have got children going back to school, a whole host of things, looking at the anxiety and all the stuff that has been going on. So yeah, I'm findable. If you Google me as well, Fiona Small, you'll see all the bits and pieces that come up. What's happened since setting this up, I've become the kind of spokesperson for anything to do with young mums and solo mums, and the BBC often will use me to kind of speak around different topics. And it's, you know, if I'm to say to everybody on this, if I can do it, so can you, because I never imagined that my journey was going to be the way that it was, and to where it is to date, but also the team around me. And Sarah, you know, I cannot thank you enough. There's people around that has made a lot of things possible. I'm the face of the business and the idea, and it was my brainchild, but I could never have done it without my amazing team, and I have to mention them on this, because without them none of this would have been possible.
Sarah, there you are. That's a nice thing to hear. I'm sure you hear it all the time. I get the sense that Fiona tells you that quite often, actually.